Liam, tomorrow is the day
Yeah.
when the whole nation should be put at ease. There's going to be an energy price freeze, right?
Yeah, and there will be some umbrage that it's taken this long with 7 weeks of Tory leadership contest, given many households and businesses have been scratching their heads, losing sleep, not investing, changing their plans because they don't know how they're going to solve their bills. What seems clear is that we're going to go back to the April 2022 Ofgem energy price cap, so around £2,000 at most, as I understand it, for the typical household utility bill. So that 80% rise in the Ofgem energy price cap from October, which we've been discussing on GBNews for weeks, to £3,500, scrap that. That's not going to happen. In addition, there's the £400 for all households that Rishi Sunak, as Chancellor, previously announced, and also an extra £650 for more vulnerable households in receipt of certain benefits that's already been announced. The status of those two aspects we'll have to wait for tomorrow. But I think what's also important is that it is clear from that Kwasi Kwarteng tweet and from discussions I've had with cabinet ministers on my WhatsApp and so on, that there will be a significant package for businesses. Now, some people say, oh, why does business need any help? Look, there are thousands, tens of thousands of small and medium-sized businesses in particular across the country that would simply go bust if they had to be exposed to the full force of this increase in wholesale energy prices. Why? Because they don't have any protection from that Ofgem energy price cap. We've featured businesses here on GB News that are facing 5-fold, 10-fold increases in their energy bills. And I know, Gloria, it won't have escaped your attention that many of these businesses are in those red wall seats. They're manufacturers, they're steel makers, they're small family-run energy-intensive businesses in the Midlands, in the North. They are politically absolutely strategic. And ministers just don't have a choice but to extend this package to business.
Big question, how much is the bill going to be and who pays it and how we pay it?
The bill is open-ended, Mark, in the sense that if you freeze energy at a certain level, wherever wholesale prices are going to go, you have to pay the difference.
Yeah, £6,000 was the price cap figure suggested for January, wasn't it?
That's right. And, you know, I've been reading many economists, listening to them in the last few hours, with very, very precise estimates of how much it's going to cost. They're all complete nonsense, right? They're all trying to be precisely wrong rather than roughly right, which is the important thing. We don't know how much it's going to cost because we don't know where wholesale energy prices are going to go, not least because we don't know what's going to happen between the war in Ukraine and the extent to which Russia is indeed going to cut off gas to Western Europe, how the rest of the world's energy complex responds. Can we get that liquefied natural gas from America, from Qatar? We just don't know. It's clear, though, it's going to cost probably as much as furlough, if not more. That's 70 to 100 billion pounds. Put that in context. We spend about 150 billion a year on the NHS. We were about to borrow this year 100 billion anyway, so we're doubling government borrowing, Mark, at a stroke. And yet, despite that, because they're talking about helping businesses, share prices have gone up on this news, despite that massive borrowing, because the market could see otherwise there would have been
carnage,
so many bankruptcies. I think businesses and the media class has been very slow to cotton on to the impact on business, but now finally we have.
But this massive borrowing, how politically difficult is that? It's not really in the Thatcherite tradition which she styles herself in, is it?
It's interesting, isn't it? She's come into office as a low tax Thatcherite, complete with the pussy bow and the blue dress and so on. And yet her first, as I was discussing with Darren McCaffrey outside Downing Street yesterday, her first act is a massive, hundreds of billions of pounds intervention. I don't really think she's got a choice. If we had done nothing, I don't want to sound irresponsible or alarmist, I think there would have been genuine sort of civic concern, protests, mass non-payment of bills, and indeed thousands of bankruptcies.
What about the political fallout when we had Sir Keir Starmer looking at this Treasury estimate of 170 billion over 2 years in what he certainly said were excess profits? That's going to be very difficult for her if, obviously, the bill for the taxpayer is going to be, substantial over the next 2 years. How does she argue away those profits of the energy companies?
two main ways. The first way is that she'll argue about, the specifics. She'll say, as I just said, and it's undeniably true, it depends on where the wholesale energy price goes. The second, Mark, I think we're going to see a more cultural argument, as Liz Truss, a former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, a pretty able mathematician, will push back.
An accountant as well at one time,
back, and she will say, this is Project Fear Mark 2. In an interview I just did with an economist who she cites as one of her main sort of intellectual influences, Patrick Minford. He literally
was a Thatcherite.
He literally used that phrase with me. This is Project Fear Mark II from the Treasury, harking back to the time, in his view, when the Treasury said if we leave the European Union, there would be an immediate and profound economic shock, which didn't happen. There is not going to be just, arguments about the precise numbers. There is going to be kind of institutional pushback from Number 10 against the Treasury, against what Truss's supporters would call the blob.
And the orthodoxy, that was the other word, wasn't it? Yeah. Liam, as ever, thank you. More details to come, as we say, tomorrow.